this set and around homes across America. Men are weeping, and women next to them are going, I don't get it. Guys walking out of cornfields. But I will tell you, Willie, guys, long after we are all gone, they will. People will be looking at that scene, and as long as baseball is played, the same reaction. The same reaction. What an incredible actor, what an incredible moment, what an incredible life.
Yeah, I watched that monologue again, actually, early this morning, and just from start to finish, the tension in that scene when Costner is being told he needs to sell the farm, and then James Earl Jones stands up with the way he's always commanded a screen or a stage or wherever he's been, with his face or his voice even, and says, no, they will come, Ray. They will come, and convinces him to hang on, and the dream continues there. But my gosh, we'll get into it a little deeper, but Darth Vader, of course, he was the voice of Darth Vader, of Mufasa in The Lion King, Coming to America. He was so great, but he also had, there were a block from here, there's a theater named after James Earl Jones. He had an incredible stage career, won 3 Tonys, I think, going back to the 1950s, a groundbreaking actor. So he did all the big flashy stuff we know about, like Darth Vader, but also just one of the most highly respected actors on the stage and the screen who's ever lived.
Just incredible, and you brought The Lion King, another one of those moments. Simba, you are more than you have become. It just loops in my mind every day, going, come on, Joe, be better. But anyway, Mika, just in case you didn't understand that scene from Lion King, it all makes sense a few minutes later when a young ball player walks off the field, turns into Burt Lancaster, and saves a little girl's life. Yep. So anyway, we'll have to watch that this weekend.
Thank you. Meanwhile, it's a really big day politically with the first and possibly only debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and Donald Trump tonight in Philadelphia. We're going to preview that showdown and go through the latest polling from states which could decide November's election. Also ahead, we're going to explain the false claims about migrants and pets that are being amplified.
Wait. Hold on a second
the
now.
Trump family is amplifying this, acting like this is, I mean, I don't even know where to begin.
You know, it used to be, I think in 2018, 2020, the lie about immigrants and illegal immigrants, Caddy, was they were bringing leprosy to America, which, of course, they were not. Now it is that they are eating your dogs.
Cats.
They are coming to America and eating your cats.
Yeah, don't live in Ohio with a cat because it might get eaten, obviously, by
Little Mittens is going to be like
it's
dinner.
Sweeping the country. It's a terrible, terrible thing. This is absolutely ridiculous and scraping the bottom of the barrel. And J.D. Vance has been, amplifying this, and it's being amplified. Apparently, this has gone crazy on the kind of right-wing social media sites. And it's the allegation. This comes with a very public health warning. Immigrants are not eating your cats.
Yes.
But the story is that Haitian immigrants are eating cats.
And this is how things have changed, Sam. I mean, there have always been crazy rumors.
This is social media. This is
American
the craziness
politics.
of the internet.
The craziness of it is the internet, but also that you have people on the presidential ticket actually spreading these lies. Now you have J.D. Vance running around going, they are eating your cats.
Yeah, I mean, they all
What's this guy's obsession about cats? First he hates them, then he likes them, he's trying to save them, but then they're like, it's I don't get it. Like, I think inflation.
Maybe too many women like cats rather than J.D. Vance.
Maybe he saw some polling and he needs to regain some trust among the cat.
Now he's the great protector of cats.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense if you think about it that way. To your point, they all have microphones. They all have huge platforms of their own, right? Used to be that they'd have to call a press conference or do some sit-down interview and spread some lie. In this case, quite literally in succession, there was like 10 official accounts or unofficial accounts associated with the Trump campaign that just amplified this completely manufactured story.
A complete lie. And also another complete lie, Jonathan Lemire, that the season is over for the Boston Red Sox. We continue to fail up, we continue to lose, and we continue to gain on the Minnesota Twins, the only team in baseball worse than the Red Sox right now.
Yeah, the Red Sox have done their best to fall out of this playoff race.
We're trying. We are really
Right
giving
there.
it our
And
all.
the Twins and to a lesser degree Royals just won't let us. We're still in it somehow.
games back.
You can see here we're 3 games back now. We are tied with the Tigers and Mariners, so it's a 3-way tie there. But 3 back against the Twins and Twins and Royals, and we did the Yankees, sadly, Willie, a favor last night
thank you.
by beating the Orioles, which allowed them to extend their lead atop the AL East. But somehow the dream will not die yet at Fenway.
Yeah, the Yankees have been very middling over the last month or so, but they got a little help from the Red Sox last night. Yankees up 1.5 games now. But the Red Sox, 3 games out. Every time you guys say they're dead, they watch Morning Joe, they hear, they put it up on the bulletin board in the clubhouse,
Their motivation.
and they win again.
The quotes. The quotes.
Also with us, we have the president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton. So, ahead of tonight's debate, a slew of new polls finds a tight race for the White House across a number of battleground states. According to the latest Morning Consult survey, Donald Trump is up 2 points in both Arizona and Florida. The former president and Kamala Harris are tied in Georgia, while the vice president is up 3 points in Michigan. The pair are tied in both Nevada and North Carolina, while Harris is up 3 points in both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. All of these polls fall within the margin of error. And of course, polls are polls, Joe. They're kind of a snapshot, but wow, quite a tight race.
A snapshot. Again, we thank the New York Times Siena poll for providing Democrats their monthly freakout. Psychiatrists up and down Fifth Avenue actually had to double down on meds this last couple of days, and they're going to be having an active business. So they thank them for that. But here we have polls that actually now, I mean, Caddy, you look at these polls, and none of it is good news for Donald Trump. I mean, okay, he's up 2 in Arizona, a state that they thought they'd put away, only down 2 in Florida. Now, listen, this could be an outlier. It could be an outlier, except for the fact that we keep seeing polls that show Harris only down 4 points. I've seen 3 points, 4 points, now 2 points in Florida. Florida's a competitive race. You know, Democrats got a false positive a couple of years ago when the Democratic Party just did not compete in the governor's race against DeSantis. So we'll see. Biden only lost it by 3.5 points. This is a little bit closer. But, you know, you look tight in Georgia. That's a race that Trump people said they put away months ago. States that they thought were put away. And then you go up to the industrial Midwest states. Again, all ties all within the margin of error, but the ties certainly tilting towards Harris, who's up, up 3 in the 3 big states.
So the up in Pennsylvania is interesting for Harris because she hasn't been up in many of the polls. So I think that's the one that's worth watching to see whether that is and how much that reflects what's actually happening in Pennsylvania. But the big pattern from this, Florida, I don't know. We have heard that Donald Trump is spending money in the West Palm Beach area. I thought that was perhaps because he wanted to see the ads from Mar-a-Lago, or wanted his friends to see the ads from Mar-a-Lago.
Yes.
But maybe now I'm wondering, are they thinking, well, we do actually need to spend money in Florida? But all of this, I mean, it points to the fact that, yes, it's tight, and the Trump campaign now has to spend in some of those states that it thought it had put away. Kamala Harris at the moment has the benefit of resources. She can afford to spend in all of these states and is doing so, and has expanded the ground game that she's inherited from Joe Biden. So the money helps her there. And Trump is going to have to spread his resources a little thinner.
Yeah, and Reverend Al, he's going to have to spread them across 7 states because, in effect, these 7 states are tied. If Kamala Harris is competitive in Nevada, in Arizona, in Florida, in Georgia, in North Carolina, that is money that's going to be spread out across 4, 5, 6 states, and money that's not going into Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, the 3 states that really, at the end of the day, make the biggest difference.
And those states are the states that he probably needed more than any other time to spend money on, but now he has to spread that money around. And his biggest problem is he has no real infrastructure in those states. What a lot of people are not looking at is that Kamala Harris and the DNC seems to have built infrastructure in all these states, which you need to get out early voting, which you need to get out voting. Donald Trump is all about Donald Trump. It's a driven by the candidate kind of race in terms of their strategy, with no real infrastructure and organization on the ground, particularly in areas that they're not already strong. So not having the money to build and fund an infrastructure in those states is also going to come back to haunt them, I believe, on Election Day.
Well, and you know, Willie, I almost said the Biden team, the Harris team as well as the Trump team have basically admitted tie goes to Harris. Because if these states are truly tied going in to the election when the voting starts all the way through Election Day, Donald Trump does not have the ground game. He just doesn't. He's subbed it out to third parties in many cases. And Harris has been spending the hundreds of millions of dollars, not only that she's raised, but also that Joe Biden raised before her, on building up that ground game that shapes elections in close races.
Yeah, and the Biden campaign, before he stepped aside, had already built that ground game with campaign chair Jen O'Malley Dillon. And then the Harris campaign now has been able to plug into that, all while raising $500 million on top of it. So you're right, they have that infrastructure. And let's remember, yes, these are all within the margin of error, but where this race was before Kamala Harris came on board, which is to say, and we all talked to many of the same people around the campaign who privately conceded that North Carolina, probably Nevada, Arizona, and maybe even Georgia, they were going to let those go effectively. They were going to fight for them, but were not counting on them. That they just had to win those 3 blue wall states. Well, now those all are in play. And, John, we should also point out that a place like Arizona, on those tickets, there's still the residue of Donald Trump in a candidate for Senate in Kari Lake, who is not doing well. She's connected to Donald Trump, helping Ruben Gallego take a lead in that race, potentially helping Kamala Harris there as well. The gubernatorial candidate in North Carolina is what's the polite way of saying it?
Crazy.
Controversial. Crazy. I was going to go one step further, but we'll leave it with those two. Weird. Okay. That obviously could help Kamala Harris as well in North Carolina.
Yeah, no question. Also in a few of these states, abortion rights on the ballot, which has been certainly such a winner for Democrats since the Dobbs decision of 2 years ago. And there's, some variance in these polls. We had one we talked about earlier today where, Harris is up a couple in Georgia, but down a couple in North Carolina, or vice versa. That doesn't matter. The particulars are not important. What matters is these races are close, but momentum and trend lines largely favoring Harris. And she does have a significant advantage in ground game. In fact, talking to some Republicans in the last 24 hours or so, a growing narrative of concern about how, as Joe said, the Trump campaign has farmed out a lot of the blocking and tackling here. They've farmed out the ground game turnout operation. Instead, they've used that money, first of all, for a while, it was Trump legal bills. Yeah. And then secondly, about these efforts to combat voter fraud. Non-existent voter fraud for the most part, including the claims that it's non-citizens who are voting. We know that's not the case. There's never been any data to support that. And that just adds to the huge advantage Democrats have. Harris also has so much money on hand, she can spend less time fundraising and more time in those battleground states.
Yeah, Ruben Gallego, by the way, I mentioned the Democrat in that Senate race in Arizona in this very morning consult poll, now up 8 points over Kari Lake. So with all that as a backdrop, we're just hours away from tonight's presidential debate between former President Trump and Vice President Harris. The high-stakes showdown will begin at 9 p.m. Eastern in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. This will be the first time the two have faced off on a debate stage against each other. It's also actually the first time they've ever met in person. There will again be no audience in the room. Both sides